Hello, this is Catherine Cheadle with the Alaska Division of Agriculture today, and I'm very pleased to give you a walk through the 2022 Specialty Crop Block application. This is an exciting program that enhances competitiveness of specialty crops throughout Alaska, and we are going to have an opening this year from March 1st through 31st. The way that you'll get to apply is through sending an application by email to me at the Specialty Crop email address, and I'm just happy to be here from the Alaska Division of Ag today and give you a little walkthrough of what it looks like. So what I'd like you to do is find these online at the website down below. You're going to find two documents in the Specialty Crop Block section of our grants webpage. Those are the full application and the full application instructions. We've separated those two out to minimize confusion and give you a chance to look through the instructions before digging through your application. So let's go. All right, here are the instructions. So this year, these are Word documents. Now the instructions is kind of a long document. Don't be afraid, the last half of it is more outlines from our federal funder at the USDA about allowable and unallowable costs. We just have some great resources pulled for you, and certainly there are lots of links within here for more information. But again, just to keep things kind of user-friendly and simple to start with this year, we've got these two main documents, the instructions, and then we will get to the separate main full application. So specialty crops are defined by USDA. Most people think of fruits and vegetables. It can also include things like peonies, kelp. We've got all kinds of creative projects that are available. So innovation's encouraged. Contents of these instructions, of course, things like timeline, program overview, eligibility, some of our funding priorities, the actual application instructions, and a little more on some of our scoring, and the all-important grant management and reporting should you get awarded. The timeline for our grant solicitation, the availability. Right now, in February, we've done a Facebook Live. That's always a lot of fun, every Thursday at noon on the Alaska Grown Facebook page. If you check that one out, you can get updates on everything agriculture that we're involved with. By February 28th, Monday, we will have a live link on the website. So if you're looking at this video, that's been released already. March 31st at 5 p.m. We need full applications submitted to this website, dnr.scbg@alaska.gov, and that's the Specialty Crops email address. I'm checking that one all day, every day. So if you have any questions, you can certainly email that one, but the actual application is by attachment to that email address. Unlike other grant programs, specialty crops, just like previous years, that's how we're taking them. We've got a review committee that'll be working hard at all the applications that come in. We'll make our own statewide decisions on applications that we'd like to see. May 3rd, I compile all of those and give what's called a state plan overall with all of our Alaskan accepted projects to the USDA, Department of Agriculture. They look at that over the summer and then kick it back. So it's something I need you to be aware of, is that when you take the time to submit one, it's not that we want a big delay, it's that we have to kick our approvals back to our federal funders, hear back from them, and they will give me edits. Every year they come back. They've got some questions on budgets and clarification on the project descriptions always. So we go back and forth with a little bit of editing on my end. Your portion of this will be due on March 31st, but there's some background work after that, just heads up. Project timelines for getting the work on the ground can begin as early as September 30th, 2022. So again, if you give an application in March, you're not going to be starting the project in April. You might plan to start in September of 2022, or actually in October. This is an up to 3-year window. You can do a 1-year or 2-year project. Most of them are about 2 years. You can have up to 3 years. That's the end of September 2025. And then by late fall, the ones that are awarded and approved come back to us. We can start rolling by late fall. And these are yearly ones. Block grant just means that's a certain amount of money set forth by USDA, designated in the Farm Bill. So we're able to give a new round of these 3-year grants every year. Again, I'm Catherine Cheadle, absolutely, you can email me. You can leave me a message at my phone number there, and of course we have a mailing address. Preferred method of communicating would be email. That's going to be fastest to get back to everybody. So the overview here, we just go through a little bit more about what the USDA has for funding availability. Our pot of money this year is $115,000 for all Alaskan applications. Now the rules are you may apply for up to $60,000, but given the overall funds available and that we would really like to benefit as many Alaskan projects as possible, I'm just going to caution that the more modest projects may look competitive. But if you have an excellent project and it will cost you $60,000, don't let that deter you from applying. Our review committee genuinely wants to see all of the good ideas that come in. I just want to kind of give everybody a genuine big picture of our landscape here. There's a definition of specialty crops, what they are and what they aren't. Larger commodities like hay or wheat, that's not a specialty crop. Again, fruits, vegetables, nurseries, things that are grown in Alaska. We have a website right here that can fill you in exactly on what is and isn't a specialty crop. But we do have some exciting niche agriculture in Alaska that fits this program really well. That's part of what's so neat about it. So we have a competitive review, and we've got a scoring criteria that I can share with you in a little bit. One thing that's new this year, in the past we've had a letter of intent, which is like a little one-page pre-application, and then the full application. We've condensed everything down to one full application. These are more professional level grants, and we find that the people who are applying generally do have some familiarity with agriculture in Alaska and perhaps with grant writing and how the process works. So we're just going to take the one full application this year. There is no letter or pre-application. So that'll help simplify things on your end as well. Matching funds are not required. Thing of beauty. What you apply for is what you're going to get, and then you can spend it as you've allocated in your project if it's approved. Indirect costs would apply to, say, if you're a nonprofit organization or a university or something. Some of our applicants that are organizations might have overhead costs, and that's a whole different category of budgeting. That's not allowed for our applicants for this year's specialty crop block grants. So just direct on-the-ground project costs. Eligibility. Projects, the simple way to put it is, has to float all boats, benefit more than one individual, business, or organization. So if you're a small farm and you think you've got a great technique for enhancing one of the products that you're growing, that's fantastic, but it can't be for your individual profit. If you want to have a public workshop and share that technique, or run trials and demonstrate that technique, or run trials in cooperation with your cooperative extension service, soil and water district, other kinds of entities, we like to see partnerships. And again, this project must benefit more than just one individual or one business or one organization. It has to be something that, again, increases the competitiveness of Alaskan specialty crops across the board. And the more partnerships we can show, the better. Things to consider, benefiting the industry as a whole, has to be within the definition by the USDA of what is a specialty crop. And again, for Alaska, that's great news. Most of what we grow here does fit within specialty crops. If you have any questions, certainly contact us. We have some measurable outcomes, and we'll go through that section when we get to the application. You should describe how you're going to collect the data, how you're going to meet the objectives that you're setting forward. If you've previously applied or held a specialty crop block grant, that doesn't prevent you from applying for this. Your past performance, did you meet your reporting requirements? How well was your project conducted? That will enter into the scoring. And if you have not ever applied for a specialty crop grant, that automatically gives you a little bit of a boost in the scoring. So we strongly encourage projects proposing innovative partnerships and new knowledge to strengthen specialty crop operations statewide. Our funding priorities, these are not in any particular order. but different regions of the state not previously funded, improving things just through development, increased local production. Local food production is huge, you know, that we've all, last couple of years, gotten a real eye-opener on how important local food is. Things that increase better processing, storage, distribution. Food safety, handling, preparation, prevention of problems, even programs that look at pests and prevention. Marketing, absolutely. Different research on optimizing efficiencies, what's viable, testing different varieties and strains of things. So again, any innovation or partnerships, and we do require partner letters as well, at least one. If you're, we need to have a nice evidence of an industry partner. So the actual application document, again, it's separate from this instruction document that we're looking at right now. And that is online. I will accept them as a Word document type or as a PDF, Adobe document. 5 p.m. Alaska time, Thursday, March 31st. That needs to be in the inbox. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We'd rather have a little bit of brainstorming on the front end and you ask what's going to be workable than you send something in and just hope. You know, statewide, we're not expecting hundreds of these. We might get a couple dozen applications for this solicitation, so we do have the room and the space to talk with you and help you understand what the policies are and what the priorities are. And again, please only use the full application document that's found online. We do not need extra sections added in. Do not take out sections. Follow the instructions as presented. We're held to giving exactly that format to the USDA, and I need to gather dozens every year when it's time for reporting to give to the USDA in exactly that format. So again, please don't add extra sections. Please don't cut out sections. We're depending on you following instructions as we give them to you so that we can forward successful applications. We want our Alaskans to be successful, so help me by sticking to the format. Project support, having an industry professional as a partner is required, and we definitely want letters of support. Organizations, you could be a group of farmers and individual crop producers, but just please list everyone that's formally participating in your project so that we have a sense of that. We have a statewide panel of agricultural experts and professionals that review the applications. So here's our point scoring. We often get questions on what they're looking for. Complete and thorough, responds to a specialty crop industry need, and the ability of your project to make an impact. That's big. Showing solid partners, solid support, and the ability to carry out the project. Also the impact and evaluation, showing that the outcomes that you're promising to have or that you're pursuing are ones that are going to be reasonable, and that your own evaluation of your own success as defined in your application is going to be a reasonable method. So looking for evidence of really good thinking, good methods of measuring what your success is going to look like to you. And of course the budget, that it aligns with the project and that there's nothing, you know, outlying in there. And a work plan that just clearly identifies who's doing what when, what part of the effort, kinds of activities, when completed, just kind of ground truthing to make sure that things are reasonable. And again, past project performance. If you've worked with specialty crop blocks in the past, that's great. You're welcome to apply again. We'll take into consideration what your performance has been in the past. And if you haven't and never been funded, you'll automatically receive 5 points, because we like to see new ideas and try and always have this grant get out to a wider audience and new partners. So grant management. There is a contract with State of Alaska if you are awarded. And so we're held to federal procurement standards, state procurement standards. If you are an organization or a tribe, you're also going to sign off that you're held to your own procurement standards for purchasing and spending and tracking, submitting receipts for reimbursements. It is a reimbursable grant. So you make the expenses first, send an invoice in to me. If they're approved, then you get a reimbursement. Reporting requirements. It has an annual report and a final report. So a 2-year project would have 1 annual and 1 final for those periods. And it's pretty standard. What were the activities? If there were any challenges or problems, I know the last couple of years we had quite a few specialty crop block grants that came back with challenges from COVID. They couldn't have an in-person workshop, so they went for a virtual platform, for example. Maybe that shifted around the budget from personnel to contracting. If there are changes, you need to be talking with me as your grants manager. Future project plans, funding expended to date, these just the standard kinds of things that you'd find in any kind of grant reporting. The final performance report, more of the same, a lot more evaluation, lessons learned, maybe plans for the future, additional information, and wrapping things up. And hopefully your project's been conducted as you planned and spent exactly as you planned. And that we've gotten some good things to share for the industry statewide. So another thing is budget adjustments. If there are slight shifts, that's fine, but really, bottom line, you are held to spending what it is that you've allotted. Once something has been approved, that's what we do expect for you to conduct. One thing that changed on our funder end this year is outcomes and indicators. So these are different ways of tracking. Honestly, for USDA's purposes, is this public federal money being well used? What was the actual impact? We've got to assign some kinds of measurable outcomes. There are 7 outcomes this year, down from the 8 last year, and they've shifted a little bit to be a little simpler, a little more feasible to accomplish, better aligned with what the grant program's purpose is, and more reflective of the actual work done. So it's nice. They've actually been condensed down a little bit. You must choose at least one of the 7 outcome areas. So for example, outcome 1, increasing consumption, outcome 2, increasing access. You only need to choose one, or you can have more. But within each outcome, you need to pick at least one indicator. So when you are filling out your application, and we'll look at this in the application document a little bit more, you will need to pick out at least one of the indicators, and this helps you think later on for your reporting back to me and mine back to our funders. So you don't need to fill them all out, but if you've picked outcome 1, you need to at least fill in one of the indicators or more, as many as apply to you and your project. If the indicator has nothing to do with your project, leave it blank. I'm just going to scroll down these. These are all listed out right in the application, pretty self-explanatory. We'll get a chance to look at these more. Expanding research, improving sustainability. So that was Appendix A, is outcomes and indicators. Appendix B is allowable expenditures. This is federal from 2 CFR 200. It's the Code of Federal Regulations. So these are ways that federal funds may responsibly be spent or not. So if you have questions about what can be or can't be spent in these grants, these next many pages are just directly taken from the USDA's website, just to give you an idea of the kinds of things that are allowable to be funded. So I'm not going to read this out loud to you, but that's how this instruction document looks. Again, if you do have questions, you can always email me, and the earlier the better. The application period is March 1st through 31st, so the earlier you get in your planning and your thoughts and your questions, the nicer it's going to be for you when you apply as well. We want everybody feeling relaxed. That's not always the grants world, I know that. But one thing that I will say is I'm not able to edit drafts, but I am able to help interpret policies, again, help you discover what might be an allowable or non-allowable, what might be a specialty crop, what kinds of projects. We have a link up on that website as well to past successfully funded specialty crop projects in Alaska, and I believe there are about over 30 of those that are in that link. So you can see what's worked for people in the past. We're trying to give as much information as possible so we get the best applications possible. So now I'd like to do a quick walkthrough of the actual application document. This is the Word document that you will fill out with your project information and attach by email to me as your actual application. Fairly descriptive. I'm asking you for a title in 8 words or less. Just please make it succinct. Duration of the project, the start date, can't be before and needs to be after September 30th, 2022. That's the earliest the funds would be released to us from USDA. End date can be September 29th, 2025, or any time earlier than that. I would just recommend that most projects seem to do well under this program given 2 years or 3 years' time. So this is designed to be a little more substantial project than a 1 year. But if you have a 1 year project, fantastic. We want to hear your idea. Project partner and summary. So in 250 words or less, this says suitable for dissemination to the public. USDA does publish these abstracts, as you were, these project description summaries. Nationwide, they will pick some to share. So think in the back of your head, you might be making Alaska shine if your project's accepted and this gets to be shared with the larger United States public. So project summary should include the name of you or your organization, that if awarded a grant is going to be signing the agreement, the project's purpose, deliverables, or what you're going to do or share, and your expected outcomes. And this is important, number 3, a description of general tasks and activities to be completed. So that might be a bullet point list, that might give a little bit of a timeline. So you can just write in project ideas and maybe a problem solved. Maybe you're doing some research on solving some different pest problems or getting to better markets, something like that. You might have a timeline of different seasons that you're trying to do things. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. It doesn't have to be very lengthy. 250 words isn't a whole lot, but we just do want to see what you're going to do and why it matters and what improvements you're going to make to the ag industry. Project purpose. What is the issue, problem, or need that you're going to address? Again, just a couple of quick paragraphs of what you see as, if you're awarded this funding, what is the difference that you're going to be able to make? Objectives that this hopes to achieve. Objective is to do a trial and see which kind of berries grow on the soils and in the climate in my area. Other objective might be share that information using 2 or 3 different kinds of media, etc. So it doesn't have to be very lengthy, but just set out what it is that you are planning to achieve. Project beneficiaries. That could be very direct, the number of people. Maybe it's a little more indirect if you're doing more of an outreach project. Maybe you're trying to serve a number of other organizations. There's a lot of creativity. We get such a variety of ideas for specialty crops. That's one of the exciting things. Does this benefit socially disadvantaged farmers or beginning farmers? RFA is just a request for applications. These have formal definitions, and those are listed out in a little more detail elsewhere. But that's something that we would like to know about. And a statement of enhancing specialty crops. Basically, this is a sign-off that you do understand what is and isn't a specialty crop for the USDA. So that you've had opportunity to understand that. Does it continue the efforts of a previously funded specialty crop block grant? And if so, how is it expanding that? How might it be different? What might be some potential project improvements or expanded lessons? This one's a great question. Describe the likelihood of the project becoming self-sustaining and not indefinitely dependent on grant funds. As with any sort of grant program, it's really key that this be a boost towards more sustainability and that this not just be a program just for its own sake that will indefinitely only be a grant program. We'd love to see some evidence that this is going to become independent on its own if given this boost from specialty crop block grants. And a lot of the grants are aimed at better marketing, better production, better processes, things that are going to make Alaskan producers money. So hopefully these kinds of grants are going to give some more processes and research that will be able to expand the industry. So just kind of looking towards the big picture there in that question. We won't fund duplicative or duplicitous projects. If you have a similar project, or if this application is a piece of a larger project, we just need to understand what that landscape is. So it's not that we won't fund it if you have some similar funds, but we need to understand that this might be a distinct piece of a larger effort, and what that looks like, what is the grant program that's already part of your larger project, and how our specialty crop project funds would differ from, and how your project with us would supplement or differ from the other grant program. It needs to be specific, not just lumped in with a larger overall objective. If you apply for this grant, you have to be very specific about what it's going to do. If it's in cooperation with other programs, great. If it's standalone, that's great too. Just do a good job at explaining that. So describing stakeholders. Here are the USDA's 7 outcomes. Again, you need to select the outcome or outcomes that are applicable to your project. So choose at least one. You may choose all 7 if that's your project. That would be an awfully large and diverse scope of things to try to bite off. But just see what your project is, check the 1 or possibly more that might apply to you. This link has been in past applications. This is to the performance measures. And this link is exactly what I've listed out right here. The outcome and all these 1.1, 1.1a, 1.1b, etc. These are all directly taken from the indicators from the USDA. So there you go. Go on through. If you checked outcome 1 up above, be sure that you check at least 1 indicator. And this is really helpful because in the back of your mind, this helps you. You can go back, if accepted, look at your application and you'll see what you're held to reporting on. Oh, I said I was giving a workshop to 25 adults, or number of consumers who gain knowledge about specialty crops. I did an expo at my farmer's market and I exposed 50 adults to this idea. When you go back for your reporting later, you can say, oh, did I meet that objective or not? How did I measure that objective? This indicates that I had the outcome that I was looking for, in this case 1.1, exposing consumers and gaining knowledge about specialty crops. Huge variety of programs that could be done under this. Anyway, just to recap, if you check that outcome, you must check at least 1 of the indicators, but look down these indicators and give us the numbers that you would expect to achieve on the ones that are applicable to your project. If they don't make any sense to your project, leave them blank. So again, this goes down. This is the actual application form. And if you only had 1 or 2 outcomes, only fill out those sections, the indicators that apply to you. If there's something that is important to your project that's not on here, which very well may be, miscellaneous measures. And also please fill in its data collection. Just how is it that you're going to know that you met your objectives, and how are you going to measure things and know that you met your own success? Budget narrative, standard line item budget. Again, there is no match required on this grant. So personnel, fringe, travel. The rest of this application is just expanding on that. So if you're going to need to, or you already have in place people to do this, you might already have the name of a staff person if you're an existing organization. Great. If not, maybe you have a title and it's just a project coordinator or lead researcher or what have you. Level of effort can be in hours. FTE is just full-time employee percent. So say you've got an employee, it's going to be 40% of their time to handle the task that you're about to describe below in justification. Great. If you need to hire somebody to coordinate, it's going to take 100 hours and you know the hourly rate, you know the funds requested, that's just fine too. And then for the justification, you need to know who it is, what are the activities, and why is that necessary to success of the project. An employee would have personnel and fringe benefits. Rule of thumb, fringe is generally 10% what it costs the organization to manage and hire the person. Contracting is a different category. If you have questions on that, shoot me an email. Travel. And again, here's a link to the federal regulations on what qualifies as travel, what kinds of travel, the instruction document, that last half of that. If you've been bearing with me this far, the instruction document has different kinds of travel that are allowable, what purposes, lays that all out for you. But if that's involved, you can describe that and then put in the dates and again the justification. Why is that necessary to achieve your objectives and get the outcomes that you're promising within your project? Another simple checkbox that you're going to conform to federal travel policies, conform to your own organization's travel policies, etc. Equipment's an interesting one. Equipment's defined very strictly by the state of Alaska and by the federal government as an item necessary to your project's purpose that costs $5,000 or more. So that's the only things that we want to see here is if it's $5,000 or more, I'm going to need to buy a tractor. Okay, am I going to rent or purchase it? When am I going to buy it? If you do end up with an expensive item that's in the category of equipment, you also are going to have to sign off that you'll keep track of it, keep the receipt and the purchase date. You'll need to issue some kind of identifying serial number to it. There are a couple of special things just to make sure that you're keeping track of equipment. And when the project ends, how that's being used or disposed of. There are some special things about equipment. Again, $5,000 and above. But if that's what you need, that's what you need. Supplies are items that are less than $5,000. You can have several things that cost $4,000 each, that's fine. But it's just a technical definition between supplies and equipment. If you have questions, shoot me an email, and we can get you more information on that. So contractual might be a consultant or hiring some kind of service to be done. That's different from personnel. And for each of your contractors or those kinds of anticipated costs, just explain those. Again, more check boxes to just make sure that you're on top of the standards that are involved. And maybe other if there are things that don't fit in. And the last category, program income. I've rarely ever seen that, but if you are generating income as a direct result of these funds under this specialty program, that needs to be reinvested in the purpose of that project. So again, that one's kind of a special case. We've rarely dealt with the program income, but there is a provision for that if you're going to generate income, it has to go reinvested right back in. And that's it for the full application. So, thank you for bearing with me here today. I hope that we see a lot of excellent applications this year for the 2022 Specialty Crop Block Grants. And again, signing off for the Alaska Division of Agriculture, this is Catherine Cheadle, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from a lot of you. Again, the earlier the better, and we look forward to a great variety of super projects again this year. Good luck.